I want to take a few minutes to talk about what could end up being one of the biggest bankruptcies we've seen in many years, perhaps the biggest in history, I think. It depends on how far stretching the liabilities are. A lot of allegations of fraud, and it ties together a whole bunch of things. Cryptocurrency, a massive Democrat donor, $40 million given to Democrats. We are always outgunned financially somehow in these elections, folks, which does make a difference. $40 million. I think second only to Soros and Soros-backed groups in terms of individual donor election giving. And then it also deals with something that I'll be explaining a bit more, and it's a kind of effective altruism, they call it. Effective altruism, which is where you get the combination of left-wing do-gooderism with data, and it's on things like climate change and all the things, and it ties into ESG score. And this company, FTX, actually had a pretty high ESG score, no surprise. This is fascinating, Clay. And for anybody who wants in this, I find this genre to be really interesting because it's another time where somebody who became very connected politically, connected to Democrats, managed to pull the wool over the eyes of people who were supposed to be brilliant and see through this. Elon apparently saw through him. We'll get into that maybe. But this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, managed to create, starting in 2019, it wasn't around very long, a cryptocurrency, effectively online trading desk, right? Clearinghouse for cryptocurrencies called FTX. FTX has estimated liabilities of up to $50 billion. That's according to CNBC. Enron, remember that one? Enron had liabilities of $23 billion. So if you thought Enron was a big deal, this is up to $50 billion. Now, Enron, you could say you have to adjust for inflation. But here's basically how this went, Clay. This guy comes up with this idea that they're going to create this exchange for cryptocurrencies online, FTX. And they managed to get, I think, weren't Tom Brady and Giselle were big investors.
They brought in tons of famous celebrities, Buck, to be pitching it. I mean, in Miami, they had to already take, I believe they had renamed the Heat Arena FTX Arena, yep. And they stripped it right off the top of the arena because they've now gone bankrupt, which is somewhat similar. If people remember, the Houston Astros used to play at Enron Field, and then they had to take Enron's name off everything down in that area. So these big companies that are so powerful and seem to be built on such firm structure that they're spending millions of dollars on random branding acts, suddenly they're getting it stripped off. Enron, every bit of Enron had to come out of, I believe, what is now Minute Maid Park, the Houston Astros Stadium. And similarly, FTX had committed billions and billions of dollars. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl, they had a ton of crypto advertisements on the Super Bowl, and all of it appears to have been a house of cards.
What's amazing is that, again, think of, folks, this is one of the reasons that people aren't making a bigger deal of this story outside of the financial realm. The second biggest Democrat donor in the entire country is certainly a fraud in the sense that he was telling people things about the company that were not true. It is bankrupt. I mean, that is all established.
He may go to prison. I mean, Kenneth Lay went to prison. I think that's the question. Will he get charged with crimes now? Now
there are allegations that what this guy did, Sam Bankman-Fried, Democrat superdonor, in this election, by the way, just keep remembering that, tens of millions of dollars given to Democrat candidates. What he did was he brought in investor money in the crypto market. And the same thing, a bank takes your money and has to hold some amount of money in reserve, but it can lend out money. He took in money. Now, crypto is not very regulated the way that other, traditional financial institutions are. He based out of the Bahamas, which should have been, to some people, maybe a little bit of a way. This guy's been in business for 2 years, basing out of the Bahamas. Why is he? There's already stories that he may be going to Dubai to evade
eviction. To evade
extradition treaties. Yeah. That he may be going to Dubai to basically because it looks like this is going to turn into a huge criminal charges, massive problems. Billions of dollars of wealth has evaporated. Billions of dollars. We know that already. And it seems that he was taking people's money and then buying things with their money, and those things then didn't work out. So then he was bringing in, this is the allegation, that he was bringing in more money from investors saying, hey, we'll hold this crypto for you, kind of like a bank. But actually he went out and bought this, that, and the other, different companies, different crypto holdings. And, I mean, this is a massive story with tens of billions of dollars at stake. Billions have already been lost, and it goes to the heart of the Democrat Party. It goes to this concept of effective altruism, which became very trendy, which is basically, our company is a do-good company, not just makes money for you company. He effectively was laundering his reputation with this. Paid off the Democrats. That's always a good insurance policy just in case. And there was no there, Clay. I mean, the whole thing has collapsed overnight. It's unbelievable.
$40 million in donations to Democrat politicians. I just think that needs to be hammered home again and again and again. And I think what's ultimately going to come out here, and this is simplifying it basically, kind of story in a sentence style, is he was betting other people's money. He had collateral, to your point, like a bank, and then the price of crypto has cratered. It was $68,000 or whatever it was, and now it's down, I think, to $15,000 or $16,000. And effectively, there was a run on his bank. Everybody suddenly got afraid that he didn't have the ability to pay them back, and the whole thing just imploded overnight. And I saw he initially flew to Argentina. Is that accurate? He definitely has fled the Bahamas. He's not in the Bahamas anymore, is my understanding. And they're not really sure what's going to end up happening. But to go from, to lose potentially $50 billion overnight, it's hard to believe that there isn't in some way a fraud involved.
He denies the flight to Argentina now, just to be
okay.
This story's being updated all the time because...
So where is he now? Is he still in the Bahamas? Where do we know where he is?
He says he is still in the Bahamas. See, this is the thing about somebody being based in the Bahamas is that, the rules, the laws, it's all much more lax there. Obviously, if this guy was walking around downtown New York, people would be like, oh, he's here. It's a little different over there. I mean, Clay... Tens of billions of dollars effectively it almost evaporating here, right? I mean, the losses are going to be catastrophic because the thing's already declared bankruptcy. It's all over, folks.
Yes.
And what you're going to find out is that just like there are two case studies that I think, and if anyone wants a really good read, Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, which is about the Theranos debacle.
Such a good book.
$800 million,
Such an incredible
amazing book. $800 million raised for a company that never had a product that worked. Or even really a product of its own in any
by
meaningful
some
sense.
of the most wealthy and sophisticated investors in the world.
Yes.
It's not like, I mean, it's crazy how big of a fraud that was.
She brought Mattis, General Mattis, onto her board. She just figured stack the board with the most unimpeachably credentialed and famous and connected people. Very similar to what this guy did. The other one is the other story that there's nuances and differences here, but $1 billion whale about Jolo, who I believe is still. Do you know about this guy, the Malaysian guy?
Oh yeah, Goldman Sachs was involved with, and everybody else.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs was involved with him. He actually funded through Red Granite Pictures The Wolf of Wall Street, which is amazing because this guy basically just fleeced some sovereign wealth funds and took it to throw. He threw the most expensive party I think ever in Las Vegas with investor money. He flew Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of Victoria's Secret models down for his birthday, as one does. This is what this guy was doing. This Sam Bankman-Fried guy is 30 years old, but, he went to MIT. He talked a good game. He made connections with the right people. And no one ever thought to look under the hood. I mean, Sequoia Capital, which is one of the most storied and supposedly savvy. It's been incredibly successful in the past. They gave this guy $200 million. What are they giving him $200 million for? A crypto exchange online. I mean, there's a lot of it never made sense.
I think that there's a couple of things at play here. One is crypto is actually pretty complicated, and people don't want to feel dumb. So a lot of people just follow whatever the herd is saying when it came to crypto. And I think that's even for actual intelligent people, to say nothing of people who are just, lemmings and going to end up following whatever the hottest investment is, whether it's these NFTs. Remember when the non-fungible token stuff was like, everybody was like, oh, you got to buy this Bored Ape stuff.
People wanted me. They're like, I want you to get involved with my NFT. And I no thank you. Across the board, no thank you. I mean, look, this is a general rule for investing that people like Warren Buffett will tell you. I mean, I'm not a good investor and I have very little money. But if you can't explain it and don't understand it, don't invest in it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that you can really understand what the risk parameters and the upside are.
I think that's exactly what happened with crypto. And then the other aspect of this is I'm sure this guy is very smart, and he's able to make you think that he's so much smarter than you are that what he's saying has to be true, when the reality is, I mean, this whole thing is just a web of lies, and the deception goes deep. And basically, we just got an old-fashioned run on the bank that they weren't prepared to be able to handle.
And people are also going to start thinking about a famous guy from back in the 1920s, Charles Ponzi.
Yeah.
Charles Ponzi had this whole idea. He would promise investors a 50% return after an investment in international mail coupons. And guess what? He kept bringing in new investors, paid off some of the other investors, but eventually the web expands and expands and the whole thing collapses. It's basically what Bernie Madoff did.
That's right.
And, I mean, it was a Ponzi scheme. It just as an investor instead of this. Well, actually, no, Ponzi was an investment scheme, too. But the thing about the crypto scheme here with this guy, Bankman-Fried, is he was buying up other crypto assets, other cryptocurrencies would get in trouble. Keep in mind, anybody, you at home, it's not that you could figure out a way to set up a cryptocurrency, right? I mean, people can make up cryptocurrency. It's not really all that complicated. And he would buy out these other cryptocurrencies. And what the allegation is right now is that he was doing this with investor money that was supposed to be held in trust in the cryptos that they thought they were buying. So that's that's why the risk, the counterparty risk and the contagion here, again, the tens of billions of dollars. And for those of you who are like, oh, I don't care about this stuff, whatever, just remember, this guy. I've seen a lot of people are talking about Ukraine. I haven't seen anything that's solid on that with Ukraine and FTX and all this. If I see more, I'll come back to it. But Clay, $40 million. And the whole thing is, we're going to address like climate. He donated to all the right left-wing causes and all the right left-wing politicians. I have a feeling that kept the regulators off his back quite a bit.
Not only that, Buck, how about the fact that it blows up just a couple of days after the election, much like Joe Biden's student loan bribe did as well. It's amazing how they kept the lid on so much of this, and then the election happens, and suddenly all the dirty laundry comes pouring out after the votes are already in. In particular, we need to talk some about the student loan shenanigans, which we have been telling people were unconstitutional from the moment he tried to do this. And the fact that it's now blowing up, it's after the midterms. Now they'll blame Republicans for taking away what they'll claim was the right that Joe Biden had given them for 2024. It's unbelievably political movement, but also deception and lies that are going to be a foundational appeal in 2024 now.